Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kabah Harrison, and you have joined me for a Queen's Roundtable show and podcast for the Born to Lead docu-series segments. This time, I have an awesome young lady in the studio that's actually going to be joining me momentarily. But before I bring her in, I want to let you know a little bit about her. And also, if you have not done so already, this show airs on the Realizing Your Potential television network, which we currently are. The app is available on Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, and Apple TV. So if you want to see us on the big screen, go to it, whatever TV platform you have, search the Realizing Your Potential TV and download the app. If you would wish to join us from either, or shall I say, on your mobile or via mobile, you can go to the iOS App Store as well as the Android App Store and snatch the app there. That way, you can make sure to see not only this particular episode for the Born to Lead docuseries, but you can also check out the others as well. So, without further ado, let me see. Let me make sure I'm saying her name correctly. It is Andrea. I believe is how she pronounces it. Now she will correct me when she joins the stage. But I'm going to tell you just a little bit about her. Andrea is an intuitive that uses her intuitive skills to guide people to their soul purpose. She helps people to uncover their reasons for being stuck and then helps them to use that reason for drive and purpose. Her passion is spreading hope and helping everyone to see the beauty in life and their soul purpose. It's her mission to help everyone see life through different lenses, to gain a sense of compassion and also their reason for existence. She hosts a podcast and a YouTube show that showcases tragic stories that people share, how they have used that tragedy to lead them to their most successful life. So, we are going to bring her into the studio. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I hope I pronounced your name right.
You did.
Angie. Okay, excellent. Well,
You
welcome
did
to
great.
the stage. Welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you here. And go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience. I mean, I know I've started, but you go ahead and finish.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. So I am an intuitive, and I've gone through a lot of different tragedies myself in my own life. As I've died several times, I've had several health challenges to the point where doctors thought I had ALS, which is also essentially dying. And so all those things led me to figuring out what my soul purpose was. And I finally realized all these life events that we go through, they are for some sort of purpose and some sort of reason. So when we have all these tragedies happening to us, it's really important we reflect on them and realize what it's meant to do for us. And I realized all these tragedies were just meant to drive me to help others so that when they feel stuck or they feel lost in their lives, they're able to use those moments to push forward instead of sit back and give up. And so I've used all of that to come to this place of hosting a podcast and YouTube show where I have people come on and share their tragic stories and how they got through those really difficult moments. And even though some of my guests are sharing situations people will never find themselves in, they're still sharing their way of getting through it. And it's still something that you can apply to your own life.
Absolutely. I like how you said that. They haven't necessarily been in their shoes per se, but there's still life lessons that can be
Mhm.
extracted, I'm sure, from everyone's story.
It's perspectives. I mean, for example, I've had a few amputees and people that have had heart transplants. And even though you may never find yourself in that situation, the perspective that they can offer is something that you can take on yourself.
Right. Absolutely. What is the name of your podcast, and where can people find it if they want to search you out on YouTube?
It's called Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn, and that's where you would find it on YouTube. And then my Instagram is Andrea Lynn Intuitive.
Okay. Awesome.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm not going to, pry. Whatever you want to share is what you want to
Of
share.
course.
But did you want to share any personal stories with us that kind of served as maybe the catalyst to the start of your business, your podcast?
It was reflecting on all the things that I've been
Okay.
through and realizing there has to be a greater purpose. And I just felt this push to make them meaningful. And even though they were meaningful in my own life and in my own way, I just knew they could be meaningful to others as well. And so I felt like I couldn't just sit with it anymore. And having lived through, sounds weird to say, lived through dying, but having lived through that where my heart was completely stopped and then coming back and then reflecting all these years, I cannot believe that whatever you want to believe in, but for me, it's God. But I just cannot believe that I have been through these things just for myself. I really think they were major and catastrophic for me to really put a fire under my behind, to just really ignite that spark in me to speak out and start sharing with others because I am somebody who is willing to speak out. So obviously we're talking about leadership, and that's always been something that I haven't shied away from. I've never been somebody, I shouldn't say I've never been nervous. I get nervous to be on stage and I get nervous to speak, but I also don't have a problem doing it. Like I feel good afterwards. Like I feel like I was of value and that it was needed. And so I'm okay with it. And I've always felt that way. Like, okay, if I have something to share, like I have to get over those silly feelings that I'm having and insecurities and just do it for the greater good, essentially. And so that's always just been something I've done is just pushed through moments so that I can use them and help others. And so having gone through all these things, I feel like I'm now at a place where I'm more comfortable in my own skin and I'm a lot more comfortable speaking than I was maybe 20 years ago. And it's my time to not keep this to myself anymore. The things that I've been through, I have no problem talking about any of them. And I know other people need their voices heard too.
So, what types of things has it taught you? I know you shared that you feel comfortable in your own skin. You don't mind sharing your experiences. You feel comfortable, I guess, being vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
talking about yourself. What are some of the other, I guess, positives or shifts, mindset shifts? I'll say that. Have you, has your experiences brought about over the years?
The biggest mindset shift is taking myself out of myself and putting myself in other people's shoes. I've always been that way. Even as a child, I was that way and would try to put myself in other people's shoes. But now I really know what it feels like to be in other people's shoes because I've been through so many different things. But for me, it was just realizing that like I need to like look at their perspective and really understand that every person has different values in their life. And so when you understand that somebody has different values, they're going to operate completely differently. And so I think that was a big mindset shift too, to understand how to connect with people. Um, I think that's a great leadership tip as well, is like understanding somebody else's values and where they're coming from and why they're operating the way that they do so that you're able to connect with them.
You know what? The world needs more of that, right?
Mhm.
Because if you
Yeah.
really think about it, underneath, we all we all have the same, for the most part. You know,
Mhm.
we all have the same needs. To be loved, to feel wanted, to feel heard. Things of that nature. So, and I'm actually a therapist, so actually, validating and just making, having people feel heard, and
Mhm.
also part of that is, not being sympathetic, but being able to be empathetic, which is, putting
Absolutely.
myself in that person's shoes. So yeah, that goes a long way.
Absolutely. I think another thing that's really important when it comes to your mindset shift is just understanding how we can choose the emotion that we attach to the events. Like that was something that was huge for me, and and just calming the nervous system was like realizing, okay, when things seem like they're going crazy, like one, understand why things are happening the way they are, understanding where somebody else might be coming from, but then also that I have complete control and choice over the emotion that I'm going to attach when something happens. And that was definitely a huge mindset shift. And I think everybody needs to take that on a little bit when they're stepping into a leadership role so that they can be less triggered by things.
So say that again for some people that may have missed it, in terms of controlling how you perceive,
Mhm.
how you perceive a particular event.
Yeah. Well, I'll just give you an example to make it more clear for some people. So, for example, when I was driving down the freeway one day, I had this guy completely run me off the road, 100%. Like I was no longer even driving on the freeway and I'm going, 70 miles an hour. And I think the majority of people would get pretty fired up over that, pretty ticked off. Like, I cannot believe this guy just did this. He is not paying attention. And I picked up my phone. He was in a work truck. So I picked up my phone and I called the company that he was working for. And I told them, he just ran me off the road. I said, I don't know what is going through his mind. I was like, he might need some time off. But I was like, he is not paying attention. And I think that's kind of a unique take to have on it because I think most people would have been pretty ticked off. But honestly, my first thought was like, oh my gosh, like, is this guy going home to his wife that has cancer or just like something tragic just happened? Like, because you could tell, like, nobody drives. I shouldn't say nobody drives that poorly, but you don't drive that poorly without something else being on your mind. And I felt like this man must have something else going on in his head that he is not paying attention to me. And like, I wasn't even angry about it. I could just tell, like, he just really wasn't paying attention. So I didn't know what was going on, but I knew somebody needed to know that he isn't paying attention. But in that moment, I chose to not be mad about it. I chose to just deal with the situation.
Right. Yeah, because to be angry about it, or to let it get you that upset like that actually has a negative impact on your body, you
Yes,
know.
I talk
So
about that so much, and I'm sure you do with patients. But yeah, the frequency that we hold when we have certain emotions, right? And so it's like, is it worth it? Ask yourself that. Like, is it worth it to be angry over certain things? Like, what is that even going to do for the situation or for you? How does that serve you?
exactly, how does that serve you? So and this kind of, I just thought of this as you mentioned that. So when you work with people, because I know we haven't really gotten into the intuitive piece, or how you help individuals. Do you work with them when they come on your show, or is that, do you work with them in like a private practice?
No, I have privately worked with people, but I've debated doing that on the show, doing some live stuff, but it's such a vulnerable place for people. And so, I mean, I could find people that want to do that. But as I said, I am intuitive. So often I pull up things that people, they're not saying it to me. I just see it and know it. And so that's where I'm able to help people get to the root of things when they're like, well, I don't know why I feel this way. And I'm like, well, it's actually because, like, when you were 5, I see da 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 da. And then they're usually like, oh, yeah, okay. So it's really about getting to those root experiences.
Okay. So in terms of the intuitive work that you do, was that, was having the near death experiences, was that a catalyst to that as well, or was that something that already, that you were already doing or had acknowledged?
Great question. I don't think I had acknowledged it prior. Like I can look back and see that I definitely had gifts and spiritual things were happening to me as a child.
Mhm.
But those definitely kind of brought me to the other side a little bit. And then it was more so having loved ones and people around me pass away and then talking to me and I could hear them. And then friends and I, we'd go see other like psychic mediums and they would tell me, no, like you can hear them. And I didn't even bring it up. So it was very validating to me that the things that I was seeing and hearing were legitimate. And then after working with several people, like they have obviously validated everything I'm saying is spot on. So I know it's coming from the other side. But I think the near death experiences, I mean, everyone says it kind of, you go to another side, another dimension, another veil, some will say. And so I think you leave and you come back with a little bit of being a little more in touch with the other side.
Does that scare you at all, or did it scare you initially?
Yeah, a lot of people ask that because they think for me, like, oh, I must be just seeing all these people like walking around me that aren't actually alive. And for me, luckily, that's not typically how it works. Sometimes I will see people in that way, but not typically. For the most part, it's more like in my mind's eye, I will get visions and I will see things that way. And I always explain that to people. It's like if I said, can you picture an apple? Like you can stop, think about it, and see an apple in your head and tell me what the color is of the apple and like, what it looks like. And so it's kind of like that. It's just it just pops into my vision that way, unless it's something very much in that space in somebody's home or someone there. But otherwise, futuristic things just pop in that way.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just trying. I, I'm just kind of thinking about where I wanted to go, or where I wanted
Mhm.
to go from there. You know what I think I want to do. Well, I don't want. Is there anything else you want to say? I guess about that in particular. Oh, my internet got kind of crazy there for a second. Is
It's
there
fine.
anything that you want to say in reference to the intuitiveness, or how everything came about, prior to us breaking for a quick commercial? Because I'm thinking when we come back, I want to kind of hone in a little bit more on our leadership piece, so you can provide
Mhm.
some your more tangible tips and tools for the audience.
Mhm. I think
Okay.
I just want to say on that, part of what I do is really helping people lean into their intuition and getting in alignment with where they feel like they need to be in their soul purpose. And so to guide people to do that, I often tell them to just quiet your mind and step back and allow the guidance to come to you and do what feels right. When you feel kind of anxious about something, like it's not right, right? And like lean into that and start giving yourself grace and the ability to say no when you know it just doesn't feel right. That's something I've had to start practicing myself. Is I was such a yes lady. I was so yes, yes, yes. I just wanted to please everybody. And it's like, I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen. And then it's like I had all this overwhelm because I was overcommitting myself. And so it's really important to honor yourself and give yourself grace so that you can do the things that feel right to you. And when it comes to getting on your soul path, I think it's really important to reflect on your life and look at all the things that you have been through and think like, what could these be leading me to do or pushing me to do? So like for me, when I looked at my life and all these different things of dying, and I struggled with depression, and then I struggled with all these health battles, it's like, like, am I meant to go be a hairdresser? Like, I don't think so. Like, yeah, I'm actually very good. I can, like, I cut my kids' hair and I used to cut my own. Like that would have been a great thing. Like I would have been great at it. But like, was that really what I was put here to do? And so I think it's really important to ask yourself, what do you think you were put here to do? And your life experience will explain that to you.
Hmm. Okay, I like that. What do you think you were put here to do, and your life experiences
Hmm.
will help you or guide you, explain that to you? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I like how you said lean into it, because it's there.
Hmm.
It's a matter of leaning into it. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'll be honest. I'm very transparent in this respect. I don't have a lot of knowledge. You know,
Yeah.
I, and I can't say I've spoken with a lot of intuitives, but would you say this in the intuitiveness?
Mhm.
is the same for men as it is for women?
Oh, interesting question. I have never been asked that. Um, but
Leave it to me, right?
y yeah, I mean, interesting. But yes, I don't see how it would be different, but I
Okay.
will say men, I think, are less open to leaning into that. They're more like it has to be very matter of fact. I must have read it somewhere. Somebody must have told me to do this. Like I'm not I don't know. Men they just operate a little differently. Women we're a little more open to I don't know, leaning into things that aren't typical for us and seem a little strange. I think our curiosity is a little bit higher.
I think so too. I think so too. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, give us just a moment, everyone. We're going to go to a quick commercial break and then we will be right back. So don't go anywhere, hang out, and we'll be back.
Realizing Your Potential LLC presents Born to Lead, Awakening the Leader Within. This anthology brings together women that have overcome hardships in their lives and have managed not only to survive but thrive. Their stories focus on resiliency, adaptability, and strength, acknowledging the innate strength and leadership qualities in African American women.
Hi, everyone. We are back. We are back. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit more into the leadership piece. So, when you think of leadership, when you think of what you can bring to the audience that would help
Mhm.
individuals in this area, again, helping, just picture some women, are having difficulty leaning into it, or maybe think of maybe some negative characteristics that may be associated with it, or just barriers in general. Like, what would you say to help navigate them through this process? And you can go anywhere you want to with that.
Well, I think as women, we in so many different ways, there's all these different images and all these different ideas of what a woman should be and how we should operate. And I think it's really important for women to be vulnerable and be transparent with the struggles. And even as a leader, like when you can't figure something out, like, yes, try to figure it out on your own, but it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to share your struggles because it makes you relatable. And I actually recently did a podcast episode with someone else in leadership, and she was talking about this. And we talked a lot about this. Like, just being vulnerable with people will make you so much more relatable. It will make them feel more comfortable with you. And you will look, you still want to be a figure of authority to them, but to respect you, I feel like people have to feel like they can relate to you and they don't look to you as if you are somebody on some totally different level. And I think it's really great for them to see that sometimes you don't have it all figured out and they can watch you go through the process of figuring things out, because that's also what you want the people under you to figure out too. It's like, okay, I didn't know how to do this. I figured it out. Here's the process I went through. Now you watched me go through the process. You now know how to do it too, and you can apply it as well. And so I think being vulnerable is really important as a leader.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
just talked with someone about that too, in terms of sometimes you don't know all the answers, right? And if someone
Mhm.
asks you something,
Mhm.
it's okay not to know. It's
Yeah.
okay to say, you know what, I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
I know who to ask, or I'll find out for you and get back with that person. Like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And it makes me think about previous leaders that I've had and how I have a lot more respect for an individual as a leader if they do show, that transparency, that they don't know everything,
Mhm.
and versus them, pretending that they know and they really don't. Like that's just, I don't know, that's just kind of the first thing that kind of comes to my head when we
Yeah.
start talking about that. So
And when you say respect, I think of another thing we talked about was being authentic. Like it's really, really important to be authentic. And I've had mentors and different people where their authenticity is not, it's not there. And so I don't stick around with them for the long haul because it's like when somebody's not super authentic, it's hard to trust them. And then I feel like once you've lost trust in somebody, like you don't want to follow their footsteps anymore.
exactly.
Mhm.
Authenticity. Do you think
Mhm.
that's talked about enough when it comes to leadership or when people go through leadership trainings?
I don't think so at all. And I think a lot of people, it's almost like a fake it till you make it and, look like you have it all together. And it's like, just be you though and be real. I think that's really important because then people will feel like you're another human with them.
Exactly. Yeah, and I
Hmm.
think that's extremely important, that whole relatable piece.
Hmm.
And just to even kind of take it to entrepreneurship, because my primary audience is entrepreneurs, is that even when, you get on a Zoom call with a potential client, or clients, could be multiple,
Hmm.
is showing up as your authentic self,
Hmm.
being professional, having your information and things of that nature. But again, I totally agree with you. I think it's important for people to be able to relate to you. They say, and I'm not a business strategist in any sense, but they say that people buy from people that they, what is it? Know, I guess, know, like, and trust. I think it
Trust.
is. I
Hmm.
know trust is in there, and I
Hmm.
and I think one way to be able to build that trust is by being relatable. And the only way you can really, in my opinion, that you can be relatable to someone is to be authentic. You have to show up as
Hmm.
who you are, you know.
Hmm.
So and yeah, I'll put a pin in it. So right at this, because I can kind of go on and on. So go ahead,
Yeah.
jump on in there.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I've worked with people where they just weren't super authentic, and so then you kind of start questioning everything that they're saying, and so then it's like then you get to a point where you don't want to follow their footsteps anymore, and so yeah, that is a very important thing. Um, Another thing, if you want me to
Mhm.
point out another thing. So another thing in leadership is to ask yourself questions and ask yourself, okay, I'm a leader. I'm a leader of what? And how am I achieving this? And then you think you're achieving it in one way, but ask the people that you're trying to achieve it for, like, am I actually meeting your needs? Like, here's what I think I'm doing, right? Here's what I think I'm leading you to do, but am I actually accomplishing that? And I think it's really important to check in with the people that you're trying to lead instead of just some leaders, I think, just know, oh, this is exactly what to do and I've got it in the bag and they're just doing their thing, but then all the people underneath them are just annoyed and don't want to follow along. And so I think it's really important as a leader to ask yourself what your goals are and what you're trying to lead people to do, but then ask everybody, like, am I even being successful here?
Right. Just eliciting that feedback, you know,
Mhm.
because I think that also goes a long way, because
Mhm.
it shows that it's an exchange, you
Mhm.
know, because in order for someone to, in order, well, one of the things I think in terms of being an effective leader is, like we talked about, being authentic, right?
Mhm.
And a big component of that is showing the individual that their needs and their concerns are also very important, right?
Mhm.
Because you may be, it's just like when you're communicating with someone, you
Mhm.
may be talking, right?
Mhm.
But you're not really sure that it's being effectively, or that the other person is receiving it. That's what I'm looking
Right.
for. You're not even
Mhm.
sure if the other person is receiving it. And how are you sure, or how do you know? It's to check in with that individual.
Mhm.
And I can speak, from personal experiences, again, dealing with, other managers in the past. And it's almost like that is not a concern.
I
You know,
think that's been the biggest problem too for me, like under leaders, is they don't even check in and ask how their leadership is going.
yep. Or how do you feel? Do you feel like a member of the team? Do you feel like your input is welcomed?
Hmm.
Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel valued?
Hmm.
Is there, anything that we could work on to, make your job better, or just whatever the case, just checking in. I
Right.
just don't think that that's a huge component of it a lot of times, unfortunately.
I agree. And I think it's really important for leaders to demonstrate how they want the people beneath them to be. And so it's like they need to show that they are still open to learning new ways and figuring things out differently, right? Like show the people beneath you that you're still learning too and that you're looking into things so that they want to do the same and they come to you for questions. Like show them how you went to someone even higher than yourself to get answers. Like demonstrate how you want people to behave.
Absolutely. And I think the piece about the questions, I think that kind of goes into, not having this whole, or not trying so hard to have this whole persona that you know everything. Because again, if you know everything, that means you're not in a constant state of learning. And
Right.
as individuals, we are always in a state of learning. There's always
Mhm.
something that we can learn to, help us, like personal development, professional
Mhm.
development, and if you're acting as if you know everything, then that doesn't put you in a position of being able to learn. Like, I'm a firm believer that you can learn something from just about everyone, because everyone has a different perspective, you
Mhm.
know and I think oftentimes, as a manager or a director, or whatever your leadership title
Mhm.
is, I don't think that a lot of times feel that they can either learn
Mhm.
from other individuals, or, or either they're attempting, or just so in that mindset of, I know everything and I don't need to get any input from anyone unless it's someone above me, you know.
Right. Yeah. I I'll say as a podcast host and a YouTube host, for
Mhm.
me, I know that I am doing my job because my job is trying to lead people to their soul purpose and helping them get to a different place in their life. And how I know that I'm actually doing this is when I get the feedback from people that your message was exactly what I needed to hear today. Like I get that. I've been getting it a lot and I love it. I'm like, that is everything. Like that is all that I want to hear from people. Like just tell me I have delivered because that means I have. Like I've given you what I want to give you. Like I want you to hear the messages that you just really needed to hear today because that means like it sparked some sort of thought in you and some sort of like interest in moving forward in some way or another in your life. And so I think it's the same for later, like I was saying before, like that question of like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish? And am I accomplishing that? Am I getting that feedback from people that like I'm giving them everything that they need from me?
That's right. Because you
Mhm.
can assume one thing,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean that that's the truth. Or,
Right.
just like you might get on the Zoom or something, or give a presentation and you understood it,
Mhm.
but you haven't really checked in with anyone else in terms of,
Mhm.
well, how did you guys receive that?
Mhm.
Are there any questions? Is anyone, just give me some input, give me some feedback, so
Uh-huh.
constantly being able to check in. And I also think that that's a strong part of leadership as well.
Yeah, it is for
you know
sure. Uh-huh.
And you have to be comfortable in yourself to take feedback as
Mhm.
well,
Yeah. I,
because sometimes that
yeah.
can be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. It is uncomfortable, but that's also how we grow. Like if we don't get feedback, and I mean like I want the negative feedback more than I want the positive, to be honest. Like the
Mhm.
positive tells me I'm doing what I wanted to do, like I'm doing it right, like I'm accomplishing the mission, but at the same time I want growth and I want to keep getting bigger and bigger. And so I do need the negative feedback so that I can switch things up a little bit and grow.
Right. And sometimes it may sting a little, but again,
Yeah.
I've heard people say that I've experienced that, but that's how you grow.
Well, okay, it might sting a little bit, but then there's also, like I was saying before, like we can choose, like we can choose that emotion we're going to attach to this, right? Like somebody can come to us and they can say something that's not the most positive. And I think like give yourself a moment to maybe have that frustration if it's like, and then it's like, okay, but like, cause I get that way where like, I think immediate reaction is like, that stinks. But then it's like, okay, wait a minute though. Like, what can I do with this? And how can this serve me in a positive way?
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I have another question for you, and I was just deciding which one I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know you've kind of, touched base on this somewhat
Mm-hmm.
already, but this is something a little more tailored. So,
Okay.
this question is, how do you approach as a leader? How do you approach making very um, strategic or very monumental decisions
Mm-hmm.
for your business? What is the approach that you use or utilize?
That's a great question. Big decisions. I look at the choice or the question, whatever decision it is I'm trying to make, and I look at the outcome and the benefit that I'm going to have from it, and what is going to be that ripple effect that happens when I make this decision. Do I see it as something that's going to possibly like get me exactly where I want to be, propel me forward in a great way? Or is this decision something that's going to like, maybe it's going to work, maybe it's a 50-50 chance, like it might do nothing for my business or it might do everything. And for me, if there's a chance that it could do a lot, then I'm just going to go for it. And it's kind of that whole thing people talk about, start before you're ready, right? Like just kind of jump in. I think sometimes we just have to jump in and see what happens, because we can sit here and hypothesize all day long about how things are going to go or not go. And I think the only way we're going to really know is to just jump in and try it.
Right. And then assess as we go along, right?
Exactly. And yeah, don't be afraid to make pivots. I think
Hmm.
that's really important too. Like with any decision, like if it's something you think is going to benefit you, I say just go for it, but be prepared when it's not going exactly as planned. Like be prepared to accept it and be okay with it and make a pivot and just use that. Like it's actually really great too when you make a decision that doesn't pan out. That's a great thing too, because that's when we can actually learn things. That's when we learn the most. I mean, most people will say like they did not start, their successful company was not their first company. They've started things multiple times. And same with what I'm doing now. I've kind of pivoted many times on where I was going and what I was doing with the show. And then when I launched my YouTube podcast show, I got a notification that my podcast was ranked 111 in the country after just like a month and a half. And I was like, wow, okay. We're not there right now. It's dropped down, but it's kind of like this depending on what's released each week and
Hmm.
whatever. But I was like, okay, that's my sign. 111, like obviously that's a very angel number. But the fact that like I jumped in and I did it, I wasn't fully ready to start doing it, but I just knew if I just kept sitting on it, I really wasn't gonna get anywhere. So I started it and I put it out there and immediately had a great response. And my YouTube channel is doing really well. So I'm really
Awesome.
happy that I did just jump in.
Good. I know there was a quote by Les Brown, and I don't know because I know Les Brown uses a lot of quotes by other individuals. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it's his or someone else's, but it goes something to the effect of you don't have to be great to get started,
Mhm.
but in order to wait, no, I knew I was going to do this. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to start in order to be great, I think is what it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, something like that. I mean, and that makes total sense, right?
mm,
Like I've thought about that a million times. I'm like, well, like here I am, like, how's this ever gonna be anything? And I'm like, well, yeah, how is it gonna be anything? It's still sitting on my computer. I haven't launched it.
exactly. Yeah. And that's a whole nother subject, like procrastination, right?
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother episode. Um,
Yeah. Just
So,
let it be messy.
yeah, and you're going to figure it out. You're going to learn from your mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Learn to make your tweaks and, like you said, pivots and so forth.
Yeah.
So, this has been great. So, let's go ahead and get prepared to conclude
Okay.
our episode here. So, are there any final thoughts that you want to leave the audience with, and then segue into just telling us again, exactly where they can find you, and if basically if they want to connect with you, how they can do that.
Yeah. Final thoughts. I always tell people to look at your life as this capsule of time. And I kind of pull myself out of it. Like, picture your life as a movie, kind of watching your life as a movie. And is it playing out the way you would like it to be? Are you going to have any regrets? Because at the end of the day, like, this is it. This is your go right now. And so if you want to make any changes because you don't see what you like in this movie, then do it, go for it. Like we were just saying, like, start. Even if you're not ready, just start, because you'll figure it out along the way. You really will. And then if people want to connect or find me, they can find me on Instagram, Andrea Lynn Intuitive, YouTube as well, Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn, and my website is andrealynintuitive.com.
Okay, all right, awesome. Well, that was great. I really enjoyed having you as a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fun.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and that's the end of this particular episode. So again, make sure if you caught us in the middle, make sure you please share it out. Make sure that you've gone and actually downloaded the Realizing Your Potential TV app from either the if you are more in tune to doing listening to shows on your mobile. We're available on iOS and Android. We're also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as if you want to see us on the big screen, you can download the Realizing Your Potential TV app from Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, as well as Roku. But just make sure you tune in, tell a friend. If you're interested in personal, professional, or leadership development, this is where you need to be. And also, if you're interested in being a guest on the Eight Queens Roundtable show and podcast, please reach out to me. My website is Realizing Your Potential. The number is 123.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook under Dr. Jacqueline Kabah Harrison. And let's schedule a time to meet and let's make it happen. All right. Thanks, everyone, and take care. And until next time.